Hey you guys, today we are breaking down the TGS 2019 Remind DLC trailer. I just want to say right at the beginning that Square is killing it with these Remind trailers. There are so many interesting details, but it's not full-on spoiling anything, at least in my opinion. It's really nice to be able to kind of jump into these trailers and get a ton out of it, but not feel like I'm ruining the game for myself or for others. Anyways, I plan to just do a breakdown of the new form changes shown off, but it was literally like a couple frames. That would have been a pretty short video. Also, I just loved everything about this trailer, so I wanted to take a look at all of it. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and let's get into it. Right off the bat, the trailer opens with a scene from the Keyblade Graveyard. This scene is probably the second time they face off against the giant demon tide, since Chirithy is talking about how the heart Sora has now has already gone back to the past. The conversation going on seems to be during another point seen further on in the trailer. This is most likely right after Sora uses the power of waking to chase after Kairi. We see Sora disappear during the ending, so maybe Chirithy is comforting Sora in the fact that he did in fact exist and nothing can change that. Though I think that scene is actually during a different time, but I'll save that for later. The next scene shows Lee calling forth his chakrams in front of Xemnas and Saïx. The scene then switches and shows Lee throwing them forward, which a hooded Xion blocks. Lee and Kairi notice that the hooded figure has a Keyblade that looks just like Sora's. It cuts as Lee asks who they are. I'm still on the fence about if these fights are in a timeline where Sora disappeared or not. This could easily be a cutscene we see before Sora joins the battle. Xemnas is still here and Xion is still on the organization's side, so it's definitely possible that this is just an added scene which we were told we would get with the DLC. With all this talk of world lines, a lot of people have been talking that maybe Sora went to a different world line and that's why he's not in these battles. So I don't know if that's true or if this is just like before Sora gets to that point in the Keyblade Graveyard. Anyways, I really hope there's some kind of dynamic where Kairi and Lee question whether Sora has fallen to the darkness or not. It's not really likely since they were literally just with Sora like 5 minutes ago, but I think it would be a pretty interesting scene to see. The next clip shows Lee changing his Keyblades into chakrams. There isn't a detailed transformation into it, but I really think this confirms that Lee is able to form change his Keyblade. Lee throws his chakram forward and we see them spin around Saïx. There's a cut here, so it could be a different attack though. This whole sequence though really seems like a Link attack. While we are playing as Lee, we will probably be able to trigger Roxas and Xion to attack with one button and throw our chakrams with another. Then we will also have access to a finish command which will trigger this cinematic attack where Roxas and Xion run at Saïx both sides and slice at him before Lee jumps down and slams his chakrams down into the ground, causing a huge explosion. This attack is reminiscent of this attack from Kingdom Hearts 2. After the attack, we can see Lee jump out of the fire and toss his chakrams around a bit. This actually looks like an idle animation, so I wonder if we will be able to build up to a form change where we use Lee's chakrams to attack. If that's the case, maybe this is not a limit, but rather Lee's finisher for his form change. The next scene shows Sora and Chirithy talking together. I believe this continues the conversation that was shown during the opening of the trailer. This seems to be after the events of Kingdom Hearts 3, where Sora uses the power of waking to go after Kairi. For some reason, Sora thinks that Kairi's heart has not been lost yet and hopes that she is still with them. I think this is meant to mean that Sora is hoping that Kairi is still alive somewhere, since she doesn't seem to be in the final world, which is where one goes when one's heart and body are destroyed. Sora was able to save his friends previously by diving down into the abyss, so maybe that's what he plans to do with Kairi. Chirithy, though, seems to think that this time the situation may be more difficult. Does this mean she is deeper down in the abyss, or maybe she is all the way at the bottom, if there is a bottom? This could be why Sora disappears at the end. Maybe he dives down so far that he essentially sacrifices his own body and heart to bring back Kairi. In a scene from Kingdom Hearts 3, young Xehanort tells Sora that there is a high price to pay for using the power of waking so foolishly. Maybe this is what he means. Next up, we get a look at the Oblivion Keyblade and a new form change. This is called Dark Form and changes Sora's clothes to different shades of black. The Oathkeeper form, which I think is pretty safe to assume is called Light Form, has the blade of the Keyblade adorning Sora's pants and hood. And it seems like Dark Form does the same thing. We don't get a look at his pants in Dark Form, but we can see his hood. The command menu shows the words Dark Form and has chains underlining the name, as well as a crown and wings floating above it. Something like Dark Fire can also be seen behind everything. I want to note that there is no finish command around the form change gauge, which may mean that this is the first of 2 levels to the form change. I wonder if Light Form has 2 levels to it. For some reason, they have gone out of their way to make sure we don't see the HUD while in Light Form. This makes me think that there's a special finisher associated with that form, similar to how the second form S has Ancient Light instead of Ars Arcanum for one of its finishers. Anyways, the last thing I'll say about the command menu is that during this scene, we see the base menu. This could have been changed just for the trailer so we don't know exactly where this fight takes place, or it could just be what is used during this fight. If you use the battle gate that takes you to the Dark Realm, the command menu will also change to the base version, so this could be the case in the trailer as well. Okay, let's look at what else is going on in this scene. This seems to be a new and improved version of the Venina's Sentiment fight from Birth by Sleep. sleep. We can see a shell protecting Vanitas as well as his desperation move from the Keyblade graveyard. Vanitas has full health though, so I would assume this is not his desperation move in this fight. Two Vanitas shadows fly out and ride on a wave of Keyblades before those smash into the ground, shooting darkness upwards. As the Keyblades smash into the ground, the two shadows fly back before dashing towards Sora and slashing at him. Sora though guards against this with a barrier. This barrier has two sets of chains crossing around the shield. The attack option changes to a reprisal attack called Dark Burst. I'd be interested to see if this mirrors Riku's reprisal or if it'll have something to do with the chains. With ultimate form, you use swords to guard and would push those outwards and spin them around you with the reprisal. The normal barrier reprisal pushes the hexagons making up the barrier outwards to damage the enemy. This makes me think that the chains used in this guard will have some kind of effect or be used in some way. The chains actually come from the chain in the middle of the Oblivion Keyblade. I wondered if that was maybe Sora's chains or rather his bonds, but just how Ultimate Form had chains in the Shotlock that are from the Keyblade, I believe that the chains are not Sora's but are just used from the Keyblade. The last part of this scene shows one more shadow flying out to attack Sora, but his barrier is still out so he easily blocks the attack. The last thing I'll note in this scene is the floor and background. I think this looks incredibly similar to the aesthetic of the data battles. I don't really know what the symbols mean on the ground, though they do remind me of Scala at Kylum. That was so stupid. The next scene shows Sora and Xigbar slowly walking towards each other. Sora can be seen in his light form with Oathkeeper in hand. I think this is a cinematic during the actual fight, unless the DLC lets you have forms active during cutscenes, which would be pretty awesome to be honest. Anyways, the scene cuts to a different angle as they move closer to each other before it cuts to Xigbar crouching and shooting out a shot at Sora. We can see that Sora does not have any focus, which makes me think this is some kind of action sequence during the battle or something. Though I guess maybe you could use focus before you go into battle and maybe you wouldn't have your focus full. Anyways, the command menu has one option called Quick Shot. Sora jumps out of the way of one of Xigbar's shots and gets an excellent rating. There will probably be either a direction we need to move in or a button we need to press to trigger this. Sora dodges another one, but it doesn't look like we need to hit anything to dodge this. Sora's Keyblade glows as he shoots out 3 quick shots at Xigbar. This does decent damage, and Xigbar goes into his stun animation with both guns spinning behind him as he bends forward. The last thing I'll point out about this scene is that the pedestal seems to be different than the last one. In Kingdom Hearts 2, each pedestal had a different floor depending on which organization member you were fighting. I wonder if this is more evidence that these are indeed data battles. Though, where could this data center be? I don't know how likely it'll be, but I think it would be awesome if they used the hub world for the organization event from Union Cross. Each door led to a different data org member in the mobile game, and in Kingdom Hearts 3, they could lead to a different org member from the Keyblade graveyard fights. Obviously, this hinges on the fact that we can go to Daybreak Town, which is below Scala, which wouldn't really make sense, but I think it'd be a nice touch. I have seen some discussion about how this can't be a data battle because Xigbar isn't dead, but I want to say that in Kingdom Hearts 2, I believe it was canon that these data org members, or like the data of these organization members, was used to practice and spar against. So it wasn't really that they needed to be dead in order to fight the data org members, it was just that we discovered them after we defeated the org members. I'm so sorry, I keep getting off on rabbit trails. The next scene shows Aqua telling Terra Xehanort that the only thing she wants with all her heart is to cast Xehanort out of Terra. This could be another scene between fights before Sora gets there. We see Terra, but Vanitas is nowhere to be seen. During the Keyblade graveyard scenes though, we don't usually see the other enemy that we're fighting, so that probably doesn't really have any bearing on if Vanitas is actually there. This also seems to be right before the battle starts, since she gets into her battle stance and the camera starts to move to position behind her. The next scene shows Aqua twisting as her Keyblade glows. A cast of Blizzard appears on the tip of her Keyblade as she brings it down in front of herself. Ven is already flying around on his Keyblade, which could hint towards the fact that we will be able to use Ven's Sky Climber command style. Though I guess, would that be considered a form change? I guess kind of, but anyways, ice surrounds Ven's Keyblade and ice trails behind him as he flies around in the air. You can see snowflakes connecting Aqua and Ven during this part, though as it gets higher in the air, this line disappears. Ven twists in the air before the scene switches and slows down as Ven starts to twist downwards. Again, this is very reminiscent of Sky Climber, more specifically the finisher for that command style. The next clip shows Ven spinning towards Vanitas as a cast of Blizzard circles with him. When he hits Vanitas, a huge Blizzard is cast. This looks to be a cast of Blizzaza. Also in the corner, you can see Terranort being thrown into the air from this attack. This obviously is some kind of link attack, I believe, though if we are controlling Ventus, I wonder if this could be the finisher for his Sky Climber command style. The next scene shows the Master Masters talking to young Xehanort. We know this is the Master Masters now since the voice actor matches the one from back cover. I was kind of actually hoping this was Lucio guiding young Xehanort, though it makes me wonder. The Master Masters wasn't supposed to appear until Kingdom Hearts was summoned, right? Anyways, we see the Master talking about how he thinks that letting false light dictate the future would be lousy. What does he mean by false light though? Is this the light that Ericus holds to? Somehow Xehanort holds the power to change that. In the secret reports, Lucio notes that Xehanort might be the Keyblade Master who is devoted to the darkness. Maybe the Master Masters is the one who planted these seeds of darkness in Xehanort. The scene ends with the Master Masters asking Xehanort what he wants for the world. This seems a little manipulative. It almost seems like the Master Masters is trying to paint a picture like you've seen what becomes of the world, and that is because this supposed false light is in control. Do you really want that to happen for the world? If only there was something you could do like, I don't know, devote yourself to the darkness. I don't really know if this is what they're getting at, but that's kind of what it seems like to me. The next scene shows Sora and Naminé talking. Sora states that it would be bad news for Terra if either of them get hurt. This is probably referring to when Ven and Aqua get hurt from the Demon Tide attack. He orders Naminé to go to the final world, and Naminé asks what about him. I don't really know when this is, but he does tell Naminé to return to the final world and refers to Ven and Aqua getting hurt, so it could be after Sora dies the first time and after he meets Naminé in her star form in the final world. It's definitely before Terra is back, so maybe it's right before Sora leaves the final world to travel to the Abyss to save his friends, or maybe after he saves his friends and before he comes back to the real world. My brain hurts. Also, Sora and Naminé are talking in Sora's station, so maybe he dives to his heart and uses his connection to Naminé to bring her to his station so he can ask for her help. She's floating for some reason, so it may be that she is just there in spirit. Okay, we're gonna move on because I could just speculate for hours and not make any sense probably. The last scene shows the Lingering Will facing off against Terranort. This is probably after the Lingering Will saves the Guardians of Light from Terranort. We never did get to see what happened after they flew away. We get a close-up of the Lingering Will, and it's a little odd that he is using his Earthshaker Keyblade, I believe, rather than his Ends of the Earth Keyblade, which we saw when he appeared to save the Guardians of Light. Technically, he could have just changed his keychain, but it does seem a little odd that there's, like, a very quick cut between the Keyblades that he's using. Anyways, they are facing off before they dash towards each other. In the background, we can see the spires that Xehanort was using to talk with the members of his new organization. It's pretty likely that the Lingering Will is defeated in this fight, since Terranort appears later on in the Keyblade Graveyard fighting Ven and Aqua. But it will be interesting to see the actual battle between these two. Maybe the Lingering Will sparks something inside Terranort, which is further sparked by Ven and Aqua being in danger, ultimately leading to Terra coming back. And that is all I have for you guys today. This trailer was amazing, and I really love how they are not full on spoiling anything, but are still giving us some really good information on this DLC. This is probably like the longest trailer analysis I've ever done. You can probably hear my voice like giving out by this point because it's been so long. But I'm pretty active on Twitch, YouTube, Discord, and Twitter, so be sure to follow the links in the description below to stay updated. If you like this, click the card on screen to watch some of my other breakdown series. Subscribe or share this, and I will see you in the next video.